IronCAD Draft technical training. Now, to begin with, to answer your question, CASA Draft and IronCAD Draft technically are the same technology. However, IronCAD Draft is a standalone product separate from IronCAD, whereas what we call CASA Draft is built inside of IronCAD. So the same technology exists in both IronCAD and IronCAD Draft. The key differentiator is IronCAD Draft, and here I can bring up another website actually. If you go on IronCAD.com, go to Downloads and Product Compare. This will show you what IronCAD does, what Innovate does, and what IronCAD Draft does. You can see it doesn't really do any of the 3D modeling, other than you can do some assembly work. So the concept of IronCAD Draft is that you import 3D models and then you make drawings of them. And those 3D models can be from anywhere. You can import the IGES step, Parasolid ASIS. With the extra translator, you can import the CATIA, UG, ProE, SolidWorks Inventor. Bring any of those models into what looks like a scene environment. You can move things around, but you can't change the geometry. But you can move parts within an assembly. You can use the tri-ball. And then you can start up the draft mode and make drawings. And those drawings are associative back to the model. So it's what we see it as a market towards is especially like, for instance, a machine shop that gets inundated with 3D models but needs to make drawings of them for their manufacturing needs.
Right.
So that's a key area. And and there seems to be a lot more of that overseas, of course, being more manufacturing's overseas. But there are, of course, still lots of shops in America. So, it fits in here as well, probably just not quite as popular as IronCAD is. So then, like I was saying before, eventually the CASA Draft portion of IronCAD will become the one and only drafting tool, within IronCAD. But again, we don't have a date on that, and it could be, years away. So that kind of explains the positioning of the product. Some benefits of IronCAD Draft are the compatibility with DWG. As you probably have found, opening DWGs in an ICD is kind of worthless. It doesn't bring everything in, and they don't look very good. Within Draft, they come up perfectly almost. Pretty great AutoCAD compatibility. And then we can, of course, write DWGs really well as well. Other than that, I think I've kind of explained all the benefits of IronCAD Draft. I guess the other thing that you could do with Draft, and you'll see on the opening screen, we can start up a new scene, which we're going to go ahead and do, and that all looks pretty much the same. Of course, it's the identical UI to IronCAD. The visualization stuff is another benefit for IronCAD Draft. For just the small price point, you got fully rendering animation capability as well. So not only can you import all these models, render and animate them, and make drawings. Pretty powerful for, I think it's at like $500 or $600 price.
Yeah.
Pretty good. At this point, I think it makes sense to just jump into the demonstration. I'm going to import a model. I'm going to bring in a SAT file, but like I said, you can bring in all the formats that you can with IronCAD, with the caveat that the native translators do cost extra, of course. So I'm going to bring in this SAT file. And I can take a look at it. Like I said, I can render or animate it. If it was an assembly, I can move parts around with the tri-ball. I can make measurements. Where did they move the measurement tools here? Annotation, yeah, I can do all the measuring I want. So it can be, and I can make markups, so it can be a good view and markup tool. I can export images, things like that. So it would even be a good tool for someone that just needs to consume 3D data and, view and mark it up, maybe as a design review package, whether or not they need to make drawings or not. And as you guys might have heard of, in a few weeks, we're going to come out with this composed product that will do a lot of this also without the drawings, and it's going to be free. So that's pretty exciting, and there'll be more announcements about that coming up if you hadn't heard about that. If you're on Richard Cerna, hey Gary, are you on Richard Cerna's channel newsletter?
I don't believe I am, no. Joe might be.
Yeah, Joe probably is, and I don't know if he passes it on to you, but Yeah, I mean, that's a good way to get information about what's coming up with IronCAD. Had you heard of the Compose product?
No.
No. Igor, have you heard of Compose?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so you're on his mailing list. I'll ask Richard to get you on his mailing list, Gary, okay? Because, he puts out, well, on an as-needed basis, but pretty often, a lot of news that's relevant to the IronCAD channel. So I've made a drawing of this. I'm going to orient the view the way I want my front view to come out, kind of like you would do in an ICD. And I'm going to save the file. Of course, you got to save it before you can make a drawing. And then I'm going to go up to New, and you see it says Cause a Draft here. Even though I'm in the IronCAD Draft product, the names are kind of synonymous. They should just say Draft is really what it should say, probably. Comes up with a similar UI that you're kind of used to. You pick a template. I'm going to go ahead and pick an ANSI C size. Let that load up. And if you haven't seen this before, the first thing people think is it looks a lot like AutoCAD. It's got the black background. The icons are all real similar. And it works a lot like IronCAD, but in a way, I kind of like it better. For the 2D design aspect, it comes up with these little pop-up menus. Rather than having to remember hotkeys the way AutoCAD usually works, you have these little, not hotkeys, but little pop-up menus for toggling the options and things like that. So you have all your typical 2D design tools here, all the dimensioning, paper settings, some special tools, settings, options, view options, and then most special is this 3D interface tab. And this is what gets you the drawing views of the 3D models. So you'll recognize some of these commands, right? Standard view, auxiliary view, section view. A lot of this stuff is similar to the ICD, and a lot of it works very similar to the ICD. Before we jump into making some views, I want to just show you a few options under Tools and then Options. There's some settings you'll want to set under 3D Interface. Projection unit, you want to set that to inch most likely. It defaults to millimeters. A lot of these things you might be used to, like whether you transfer bend lines, cosmetic threads from the drawing, third or first angle projection, things like that. One thing that's a little funny is it asks if you want hidden lines or not. The verbiage is a little weird. It's like do not export or export. If you don't export, that means it's not going to export 3D hidden lines from the model into the drawing. Kind of a strange terminology, I think, but it's there. And then there's some other options, bill of material stuff, scaling and whatnot. So these are things you'll want to notice. I also like to tweak the standard dimension style a little bit just so that my dimensions come out colored based on their layer. That's just a preference of mine. But all your dimension styles are right here. It defaults to ANSI. If you open up an ANSI template, if you open up an ISO template, it'll default to an ISO. So that's similar to the ICD.
Is this where you would adjust the number of decimal places?
Right, yeah, all your dimension setting stuff is in here, right.
Okay.
Yep. Okay, so we got that set. We come back here to 3D Interface and hit Standard View. Again, all this pretty similar to ICD. They modeled it pretty close after that. I want my view to come from the file. I can pick my views that I want. There's some other options, configuration, that's like the ICD if you want to use a configuration from the scene. Quick view or real, this is like the quick view or precise mode. I suggest using real projection, which is like the ICD precise mode. Paper settings, you can browse to a different scene file here. Under assembly settings, if we had an assembly, we could decide which parts are going to show and which aren't, which parts are going to cut in a section and which wouldn't. By default, do not cut fasteners. I think that's a standard. Under options, again, this is kind of reiterating what we looked at under tools options. So if you wanted to override any of this, like for instance, the default hatch scaling is a little large for me, so I'd like to bump that down for most drawings. So you can play with these settings. When I hit OK, it's going to behave a little different than the ICD. The ICD will just splatter all four views at once. the draft lets you place each one individually. So down here at the bottom it says assign a base point for primary view. So that's my front view, and then my right view. Oops. And then my top view and my symmetric. And you just place them individually. That's slightly different. After this, it's remarkably similar, but I think we're getting to the point where the dimensioning is a bit stronger in draft for most parts. So if you come back over to dimension, what I mean by stronger is that, in ICD, sometimes you can't snap a dimension to certain points on the model.
Yeah.
Well, that's pretty vastly improved in draft. You can snap a lot more things. You have the standard O-snap. Oops. Let me get in a dimension command. Standard with this, when you're in a command, you hit spacebar and you can bring up the O-snap menu. And if you've ever used maybe CAD key or AutoCAD, you're used to these kind of snap points, I think, quadrants, center points, midpoints, all this stuff. And you have all that in draft. You didn't have that in ICD. So this, I think, and ICD tries to do it automatically, but I think it falls down in cases. So that's a benefit right there. So I can come in here and, pick 2 points, place a dimension. I can pick an edge, place a dimension. I can go point to edge. I mean, it's all very similar to what you're used to in the ICD, right? So nothing.
How are you choosing whether to go vertical or horizontal on those?
Just by dragging the mouse around. It just automatically, like if I'm in here, say I pick these 2 points. Let me grab a couple points. It'll either go horizontal if I'm down here. If I move over here, it'll go vertical. So
Sweet.
it's smart enough with the mouse, yeah. So you don't have to use the tab key anymore. So yeah, that's pretty nice. Plus there's a toggle for, like, if I did a dimension from here to here and I wanted parallel, I can just come down here and change ortho to parallel, and then I get that parallel dimension right there. Yeah, so that's pretty handy. Everything else, oh, here's another little gotcha. You see how jagged these curves are? If you go into the common command and just click regen, it'll clean that up. Also kind of an AutoCAD-ish type thing there. I'm going to go ahead and make a section view. The section view works real similar to the way ICD is. Actually, let me move this view out of the way a little bit more so I have room for the section. I just click on section and draw a section line in there. I hit right click to finish that. Pick which side I want to view from. I want to view it in this direction, so I'll pick there and just place the view. And for some reason that didn't take my hatch pattern, so the hatch style I chose. Let's get that down to reality. That looks a little better. Okay, so sectioning is pretty similar. Things like a detail view, they call it part enlarge. It's the Casa way, I guess. So you can enlarge an area just like a detail view. Go ahead and put that over here. Right click to finish it, and then zoom down in here to place the label. I got the default scaling to 5:1. And again, just like in the ICD, your dimensions are going to be true dimensions based on the actual geometry. It handles the dimension scaling automatically, so you don't have to worry about that. I suppose.
Evan, when you created that detail, it looked like it was rotating.
Yeah, you can rotate it. I chose to right click just to take 0 rotation, but you can rotate it if you want. That is an option. Some people might want to spin it around. I don't know why, but yeah, that's an option. Yeah, thanks for pointing that out. I didn't mention that. The dimensioning tools are, you drag them around like grip points, which is also an AutoCAD type thing. The one thing I really like better is the way we handle radial type dimensioning. So if I pick a radius, it moves as I place it, where with the ICD it would place it, then you'd have to drag the arrow around. This will let you do it dynamically. I think that's a little friendlier. if you know what I mean. So that's that. Some other options, maybe we'll throw in if I have room here. I'm getting a crowded drawing here. My drafting teacher would be very upset. Let's move these things around just a tad. Oh, one little gotcha, and this is a thing that we have to address, is this stuff does not move automatically with the view, which is this. See, this is the kind of thing that we need to clean up, before we can replace the ICD. Those things should move automatically with the view. Not a major issue, but something to think about. Auxiliary view is pretty similar. You pick the view you want to make an auxiliary view off of, pick an edge you want to go off of, and in this case, since that's an angled surface there, it'll just bring it up, give me an orthographic view. Then I can dimension this hole that way. Things like that. Oh, maybe dimension this radius as well. And that's, in a nutshell, that's all there is to it. I mean, without really going into, how to use the 2D drafting tool or the 2D design tools, I think this is an area here under the comment tab where most people with any 2D CAD experience would just run with it. It's got all your lines, your arcs, your rectangles, polylines, splines, all your edits, your move, copy, mirror, rotate, all this stuff. And I think it really works better for 2D design than the ICD did. If you ever tried doing a true 2D design in the ICD, I think you find it kind of cumbersome. And what we're finding is, no matter how paperless people want to be, there's still a lot of 2D design out in the world and a lot of 2D drawing usage. So it's still a valid tool, for both the 3D modeling aspect to drawing plus just 2D design. And
hey, Kevin, have you ever had a situation where someone with IronCAD would need to buy Draft in addition?
No, there's no reason. Unless they had, say for instance, they had another guy a couple seats down in the company that just needed to do drawings. What they could do is that one guy, maybe he's the engineer, the head designer, he's designing 3D models, he throws the 3D model over to the guy with IronCAD Draft who can then open it up and make drawings of it. He doesn't need to buy a whole nother seat of IronCAD just to do drawings. Not too many companies have just dedicated drafters anymore, but they're out there. So that would be a place where a company would maybe use an additional seat of IronCAD Draft rather than buying another IronCAD.
Okay. I was just thinking about the individual with IronCAD.
No, he wouldn't have any need for it because everything I've shown you today is already built into IronCAD.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, Kevin, what about setting up templates? Give a quick run through. Is this any different than sheet templates on IronCAD?
Yeah, it's not really different. You can go ahead and come in and edit away your template. You go up here to File, Save As, just like you would in ICD. The only difference is you choose a CAD Draft template, and by default it doesn't pop you into the template folder, which would be nice, the way the ICD does. What you'll do is you'll go into Program Files, and you might want to write this down. IronCAD 2012, then Bin, then CAD Draft, and finally Template. So just to reiterate, here's your path for your templates. And you just save it in that template folder, and as long as you save it in that template folder, it'll show up when you create a new drawing as a template option.
Good.
Yeah, so pretty straightforward. So yeah, anything, settings, styles, stuff like that you want to set up, you save to a template, you bet.
My other question was on importing the 3D model, can you create different configurations here in Draft, or do they have to already be created, and can you manipulate them if they are?
You can create configurations and do all that kind of manipulation. Yeah, I'm not sure if you can track suppression for IntelliShapes. Maybe you can. Let me, yeah, it looks like you can do that as well in addition to position of parts. Of course, this doesn't have any Oh no, this doesn't allow you to get to the IntelliShape level. So you can do configuration for position of parts, but not for suppression of shapes.
Okay, but if you could send a guy you could receive a file with several configurations and several parts, and they would be available to quickly make drawings.
Exactly.
If you separated them out.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Okay, that's really good.
Yeah, this really would be a good product for a drafter that would complement an IronCAD user.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So yeah, if you do have customers that are thinking about buying another seat, of course it's less revenue to you than selling another seat of IronCAD, but it is easier sell then too, so it helps the customer. And so yeah, the concept of draft is you can bring everything in and move it around, but you can't edit the geometry itself. I can't change the size of anything. I can't move faces. Can't edit any IntelliShapes. So that's the limitation.
That's usually good if you're sending somebody a finished part.
To a drafter, right? Yeah, it's good. You don't want the drafter changing the model. We're probably
Yep.
Yeah. Cool. Any other questions?
That's good for me, Kevin.
All right, Igor?
Yep, I'm good.
Great. Well, thanks for showing up, guys, and we'll have another one in a month.
I appreciate it, Kevin. Thank you.
And like always, send me your ideas for any other training areas that you're interested in.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, guys. Have a good day then.
Yep.
Thanks a lot. Bye.
And bye.